It looked like the whole house had been destroyed. The lower floors were flooded, the walls were missing plaster, and the building looked like it might fall apart. There were also rust spots all over it. It looked like no one had lived or cared for the place for a long time, because papers, books, and other things were all over the floor. At first, people who saw the search warrant for Rick Harrison's house thought it was just a normal business investigation. A normal look into what's going on in the shop and any transactions that might be fishy. But when the FBI went into the basement of the house, everything changed. No one could have known that there was a dark secret behind the heavy door and the fresh layer of bricks that no one had ever dared to think about. When they broke the door down, they found a dead body, but that was just the beginning. That's when the police realized they weren't just searching a house. The gates to a real hell were being opened, where scary secrets were waiting to be found out. Let's start reading the story. The FBI found several bodies spread out in the basement by breaking through several bricks. A lot of agents had to hold their breath because the smell was so bad. But as they started to identify the person, the whole truth came out. The story quickly caught the attention of media around the world, not only because it was horrifying, but also because the main character was a popular person who had been praised for being persistent and smart in business. Why would a well-known and liked news personality become the focus of one of the worst crimes in U.S. history? It's not easy to find the truth. There was an underground network and a dark past behind what happened, which Rick Harrison had successfully hidden for years by putting on a perfect front. The FBI's first clue didn't come from a gunshot or a shocking claim. Instead, it came from a mistake in the balance sheet. Early in 2022, the Internal Revenue Service, the FBI, and the Internal Revenue Service did a routine check of Rick Harrison's gold and silver pawn shop. The shop was flagged as one that might be involved in tax fraud. There were small but frequent mistakes, mostly with cash deals and goods whose origins were not clear. This caught the eye of police. At first, police thought it was just another case of small and medium-sized businesses in Nevada taking advantage of legal loopholes to avoid paying taxes. But Rick Harrison wasn't like other businessmen. He was the face of the American antiques business and had millions of fans on TV. His store was famous for having strange, rare, and easy-to-negotiate things that had been shown on TV hundreds of times. This made it even worse that his financial records were not open and clear. If someone who was seen as a model of honesty in business was playing a secret game, it meant that something much worse was probably going on beneath the surface. A unique FBI group in Las Vegas was put in charge of keeping a close eye on the store's money matters, and they quickly found a number of deals that didn't seem right. A lot of cash purchases ranging from $15,000 to $50,000 did not come with invoices. Rare things like Buddha statues from old times, Chinese ceramics from the 13th century, and Egyptian artifacts were bought without clear proof. Some of the items looked a lot like lists of things that have been stolen from museums in Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Rick Harrison's case became high risk because of one specific fact. His name kept coming up in Interpol's internal warning system. 3 items that were found at his store before they were sold at an auction in Los Angeles were reported stolen in Syria and Jordan by armed thieves. An FBI report says that those things had been missing from war zones for a few months before they were found in Las Vegas. As the police looked into the bank records related to Rick's business, they found a complicated web of transactions. The money from the sale of items went through many accounts, most of which were set up as shell companies in Blythe, Cyprus, and the British Virgin Islands. It then came back to the U.S. as personal investment accounts. It was thought that more than $4.7 million would be sent back to their home countries in less than 2 years. The FBI's view changed after this happened. They no longer saw this as a single case of financial fraud. Instead, they saw Rick Harrison as the center of what could be a large-scale scheme to move money. More information was gathered about the history of important customers who often came to the gold and silver shop. What this led to was a shocking finding. Between 2017 and 2021, at least 5 people who had done business with Rick on high-value deals went missing. All of these cases have still not been solved, and none of them have ever been mentioned in any of Rick's public records. However, there was no direct proof at the time that linked Rick to these serious crimes. However, the FBI had to keep an eye on him anyway, because of all the coincidences. For the next 6 months, agents were sent to keep an eye on him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They were to focus on his private home, a huge 10,000 square foot house on the western edge of Las Vegas that has a modern security system. When the security team saw a lot of strange deliveries to the estate at night, they became more suspicious. Unbranded trucks were used to move big wooden crates that weren't marked. Some delivery people had sketchy pasts and had been probed in the past for dealing in stolen artifacts on the black market. Also, the mansion had at least 3 very restricted areas that were not shown on the original plans. Something about the details that could only be explained by wanting to hide something or stay hidden. On April 17, 2024, a search request was given. People broke into Rick Harrison's house. What they found inside shocked more than just the investigator. It made the whole country shake. No one could have imagined that small problems with money would lead to a case of serial murder and a long list of charges, ranging from money laundering and artifact smuggling to running a global crime network. The carefully crafted public picture of Rick Harrison was shattered by most of the revelations. The charming old tycoon was revealed to be someone very different on the inside. On the one hand, he was a well-liked TV star with a charming smile and a huge amount of information. On the other hand, he was at the center of the most horrifying crime case that had ever come out of American reality TV. There is a secret going on at Rick's mansion. Rick Harrison's home was in the wealthy suburbs of West Las Vegas. Lifestyle magazine once called it a haven for history buffs. It looked fully normal from the outside. It has more than 2 acres of land, tall iron gates, a private fence surrounded by lush plants, a large pool in the garden, and a garage big enough for 4 high-end cars. Everything had the understated class and impeccable taste of a TV mogul. It was all very private and discreet. However, behind that well-kept appearance was what FBI agents later called an architect's nightmare. The FBI searched the estate early in the morning on April 17, 2024, with the help of a forensic support team and a search order. They thought they would find papers, bank records, and maybe even some stolen artifacts. But no one was ready for what was waiting for them behind the heavy doors that were locked. The detectives could feel something strange in the air as soon as they walked inside. Even though the inside was very fancy, it felt cold, not because of the weather, but because of the atmosphere. The house had a strange, lifeless smell, like no one had ever lived there. Some rooms were closed off with thick curtains, and there were no signs of people living there, making it look like it had been left empty. A lot of places looked like they were locked or sealed in strange ways, like someone was trying to hide something. On the first floor, police found several big wooden crates hidden in the wine cellar, which was only open to the owner of the property. There was no wine in these boxes, not ordinary things, but rare ones. Some were wrapped in silk and had museum logos from the Middle East, Asia, and North Africa on them. A lot of these things did not have formal paperwork. A lot of them fit descriptions of things that were stolen in armed robberies from 2016 to 2022. The real scary part started, though, when an agent found a secret room in Rick's private library that was hidden behind a fake wall. The small room was very dark, very quiet, and had no windows at all. Inside was the body of a dead body wrapped in a tarp. The body didn't have a name on it, but an old watch found close turned out to belong to a collector who had been missing since 2019. Because of this finding, the FBI followed special procedures and locked down the whole estate. Full-sized forensic teams were sent out, and the search order was made more general. 24 more bodies were brought to the surface over the next 48 hours. Some were hidden in storage areas in the basement, others under hollow wooden floors, and still others in places that weren't on the original building plans. This showed that Rick Harrison had changed the building in an illegal way to hide bodies. All of the bodies were at different stages of breaking down. Some of them have been there for more than 5 years. The forensic report said that most of the victims were guys between the ages of 30 and 50. Some were found to be people who had been reported missing in nearby states, while others couldn't be identified right away because fingerprints or soft tissue were missing. The fact that many of the victims had something in common worried the police. All of them had worked at the gold and silver pawn shop, or done criminal business with Rick involving antiques. This pattern made people even more suspicious that the missing people had something to do with Rick's illegal actions. These results only made it clearer that the disappearances were linked to Rick's illegal activities. Investigators also found hundreds of handwritten notes at the scene. They think these were Rick's personal diaries. These notes showed how he felt, what he thought, and what he planned to do with people he had done business with in important deals. Some of the comments were very upsetting. You can't trust him because he knows too much. You need to deal with him soon. It's risky, but it's worth it. The police came to a sad conclusion after hearing these words. It's possible that Rick Harrison wasn't just a businessman who did illegal things. He was also a methodical and calculated serial killer. The so-called secret gallery was another scary find. It was a soundproof room deep in the basement that was cut off from the main electrical system and could only be accessed by a biometric lock.